Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and today I want to talk to you about something pretty bleak, about the X-Men fates that were worse than death. Because if there's one thing that we know about comic books, is that while we get to see moments of pure heroism, pure good and greatness in the world, there is an opposite and equal side when it comes to pain and suffering. We have seen our favourite heroes go through the absolute worst of times, to the point where it's very uncomfortable to even read about what's going on. But today, we're going to have to take a look at it when it concerns the X-Men, as I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 X-Men fates worse than death. Number 10. Telepathy is torture. In the film Logan, we learned that Professor X accidentally killed the X-Men with his telepathy after his powers spiraled out of control. As terrifying as that sounds, his powers have actually proven to be even more dangerous in the comics. In X-Men Legacy number 208, we learned that the X-Men's mentor was driven nearly insane during the Korean War because his telepathy caused him to unintentionally absorb all of the terror of the soldiers around him. To avoid going mad, he sealed all of his negative thoughts in a deep corner of his mind. Decades later, these dark emotions magnified, turning him into a being of pure hate and psionic energy that was known as Onslaught. The heroes of Earth managed to defeat this creature, but only after it killed hundreds of civilians. Despite all of the good that Xavier has done for the world, his telepathy has repeatedly proven to be a danger on a cataclysmic scale. Number 9. Losing mutant powers. Because mutants are labelled as a danger to society, they have to constantly put up with slurs, hate crimes, death threats, and violence. Nevertheless, most mutants would never give up their abilities. So what happens when a mutant loses their gifts? When Storm's powers were neutralised, she felt crippled since she could no longer soar through the skies and so sank into a deep depression. When Blob lost his powers, his bulk vanished, leaving him with a huge amount of excess skin. He was so devastated he tried to slit his wrists, but failed because his skin was too thick. After Wolverine's healing factor was disabled, he felt genuine terror since he was forced to face his own mortality. Having powers may make one a target, but the majority of mutants wouldn't have it any other way. Number 8. Fracturing your mind into 1,000 pieces. Charles Xavier's son, David, can give himself any power that he desires, making him theoretically the most powerful mutant on Earth. Sadly, he's unable to control his abilities since he suffers from schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder. Every time he gives himself a new power, his psyche splits into a new personality. Over the years, he's created over 1,000 alters, each with their own unique mutation. Legion can feel his personalities constantly wrestling for control over his body, making every moment of his existence completely unbearable. When Xavier learns of this, he entered his son's mind to compartmentalize his more insidious alters into a mental prison. But when Legion's father died, he had a mental breakdown, releasing every one of these identities. Legion lives in constant fear that one of his alters will consume the world or irreparably destroy the timeline, and so has convinced himself that he's too dangerous to exist. But because of the unique nature of his mutation, killing himself only ends the life of one of his alters. Despite his best efforts, Legion has no idea how to permanently end his existence. Number 7. Being programmed to kill. Weapon X intended Wolverine to be their own personal weapon, designed for Black Ops missions and eliminating their rivals. Although they designed him to be a mindless creature who would kill without hesitation, Wolverine regained his humanity and dedicated his life to being a superhero. Since Splinter Cells of Weapon X saw Wolverine as a failure, they decided to devise another living weapon. Dr. Xander Rice, the son of a Weapon X scientist, created a female clone of Wolverine called X-23 to serve as his personal assassin. Much like Logan, however, X-23 betrayed her benefactor after she realized that she was being manipulated. However, Rice had a backup plan. When X-23 was young, Rice exposed her to a trigger scent, causing her to kill everyone in the vicinity. No matter how hard she tries, she will go into instant kill mode as soon as she detects this scent. Over the years, this conditioning has caused her to murder her teachers, her friends, her fellow superheroes, and her mother. What makes this condition worse is that it is irreversible. X-23 will never be free of it, and thus has to accept that she can turn on anyone, including her friends and loved ones, without warning. Number 6. Enslaved for entertainment. The Mojoverse is a realm where all the inhabitants are obsessed with reality television, which actually does sound a bit familiar when you think about it. The Dimension's ruler, Mojo, controls 72,000 channels, each with dozens of reality shows. Now, these series are a tad different to the likes of Big Brother or Love Island, because here, the losing contestant of any of the shows is sentenced to death. The worst thing is there's no winning here. If a contestant survives, he or she is inserted into another show, and another, and another. Some of Mojo's victims have been forced to play for his amusement for years. Once Mojo is selected as candidates, it's a safe bet that they will serve him for the rest of their life, because there's no way to escape, and many of his victims refuse to play the game and accept death willingly. Number 5. Turning into a hound. One of the worst fates that a mutant can endure is slavery. One person who knows all about enslavement is Rachel Summers. Rachel was born into an alternate future where killing mutants was the norm. In this world, the cybernetic hunter Ahab raised Rachel from infancy to be his own personal hound, a brainwashed mutant conditioned to hunt and kill their own kind. Ahab is so sadistic that he keeps his hounds on leashes and brands their faces with unhealable scars. Rachel eventually broke free from her sick master's control and traveled to the present timeline, hoping to prevent her apocalyptic future from becoming a reality. Even after she's made a home with the X-Men, she was consumed by guilt and shame for all of the lives that she took while under his control. She also lives in constant terror that Ahab's programming will reactivate, causing her to turn back into a mutant hunter. Number 4. Discovering your existence kills people. Ultimate X-Men number 41 begins with a teen called Jay walking into school, and then becoming increasingly concerned when he notices that there's no one around his area. Moments after reaching school, Jay witnesses every single student burst into flames before his very eyes. Days later, Nick Fury locates Jay in a cave and has Wolverine track him down. The X-Men explains to the teenager that his mutant gene activated a few days ago and that his power causes his body to radiate toxins, killing all organic life around him. Just by walking the neighborhood the other day, Jay accidentally killed 265 people. Wolverine tries to reassure him, saying that no one will know that he is responsible because a cover story will blame the deaths on a gas leak. Even though Jay was a victim of his mutation, Wolverine knew that killing him would be a mercy. As the kid cries hysterically, all Wolverine can say is, "Sorry, kid," before putting him down. Number 3. Destroying the timeline. In many alternate futures, the X-Men failed to bring peace to mutant kind, forcing them to go back in time and try it again. Future mutant Bishop was sent to the present to help the X-Men prevent Armageddon, and what did he do? Well, he shot Professor X in the head and tried to murder a mutant baby. That's like the total opposite of saving the world, dude. When Charles Xavier's son, Legion, convinced himself that the world would be better if Magneto never existed, he went back in time to kill the Master of Magnetism as a young man. Instead, he accidentally killed his father, causing the world to fall into disarray, which allowed Apocalypse to take over North America. Number 2. Transforming into a brood. The Brood are a hive-like alien race that impregnate their victim with eggs that, upon hatching, transmogrifies the host into broods themselves. Over the millennia, these 8-foot-long parasites have conquered 10,000 worlds and converted 6 trillion life forms into drones. Now, as it goes, the X-Men try their best not to take a life unless it's absolutely necessary. Because they understand the nature of the Brood, they are aware that each of these creatures are actually victims. But when they are being attacked by thousands or millions of broods simultaneously, the superheroes have no choice but to unleash lethal force against them. The only thing worse than fighting these malicious insectoids is becoming one. The transformation process expunges one's personality, turning the host into a mindless killer. Wolverine has slaughtered several people because he knew that they were about to be consumed by the Brood, because he believed that death was a better fate. And number 1, simply being Wolverine. Now, tragedy is a package deal with superheroes. Spider-Man, Hulk, the Punisher, their entire life is defined by loss and grief. However, no superhero has gone through 1/10 of what Wolverine has endured. If you thought that losing his memory during Weapon X was bad, you haven't even heard the half of it. When he was a boy, he accidentally murdered his father, which left his mother so traumatized she took her own life. Shortly after, he accidentally killed his first love, Rose. Although he was left a rabid animal thanks to Weapon X, he was eventually rehabilitated and and taken in by the X-Men. Sadly, his problems only worsened. During his tenure as a superhero, he's been crucified, nuked, had his skeleton pulled out, and ripped in half and eaten a little bit by the Hulk. What's worse is that Wolverine knows that his existence makes his loved ones' lives a living hell. His enemies have tormented the metal bone mutant by kidnapping his teammates, murdering his lovers, brainwashing his son, turning his clone into a killing machine, and tricking him into slaughtering his teammates and even his own children. So yeah, being Wolverine, it kind of sucks. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 X-Men fates worse than death. I hope that you, I was going to say enjoyed this, but I hope you got something out of this, because enjoyment is definitely not what is on offer with some of these things. If you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. It's my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.